Good evening. Today is the Monday, February 28th, and today is a special Lawrence City Council meeting. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2022, and in accordance with the recently revised City Council Rule Number 2, this special meeting will be hybrid, allowing participation both in person in the City Council chamber and remotely to accommodate all potential participants with a health consideration that prevents them from participating in person. Anyone who needs remote access code should reach out to the city clerk prior to the meeting at dleblanc@cityoflawrence.com at 978-620-3232 or 978-771-6393. This meeting may also be reviewed through both the Lawrence City Council Facebook page and Lawrence City Council YouTube page. With that, I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call.
Councilor Levy.
Present.
Councilor De La Cruz. Absent. Councilor Payano.
Present.
Vice President Reyes.
Present.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Del Rosario. Absent. Councilor Selena Reyes. Absent. Councilor Infante.
Present.
President LaPlante.
Present. Do we have a quorum, clerk?
Yes, we do. Six.
Very. Would you please rise to join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk, will you please, I believe the counselor.
President, I have a question. Full council is looking for a link to the virtual. So which council is that? Councilor Reyes. Selena Reyes. Thank you.
So, councilors, we only have one matter before us this evening. That's document 2620. I'm going to look for a motion to take document 2620 off the table matters. Is there a motion? So moved. Motion made by Mr. Payano, seconded by Vice President Reyes. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes. Councilor Del Rosario. Absent. Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Levy.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes, this document is now taken off the table. Councilors, the last time that we dealt with this was in March of 2021, and we had a public hearing, and we wanted to make sure that we would allow the public to remain able to speak should they wish to this evening. And just for the record, Clerk, will you please ask for Councilor De La Cruz's attendance?
Councilor De La Cruz.
Present.
And Clerk, while you're at it, can you please ask for Councilor Gregory Del Rosario's attendance, please?
Councilor Del Rosario.
Present.
Since we're doing this, I do believe that Councilor Selena Reyes is joining us. Clerk, will you please ask if Councilor Selena Reyes is with us?
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Very good. Thank you, counselors. All right, so just to keep everybody at speed, 2620 is now off the table. If there's any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter, we will allow that to take place this evening. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. I'm looking for a motion to, again, as a reminder, on March the 9th, the ordinance committee met and sent up with a favorable recommendation, what ended up being the March 9th minutes, or March 9th notes from the city attorney. And so that is currently what should be before us. So we met on the March the 16th. So I'm looking for a motion, a favorable motion to adopt, and we'll go into more detail, the ordinance committee's recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilor Payano, seconded by Councilor Vice President. Discussion? Councilor Rodriguez.
So, Council President, through you, we have two sets of amendments. One that have different things compared to the other one. I'm assuming that the one that is presented is the second set, since it have a 3/9/2021 on it, and not the first. And also, I would like to ask the city attorney how we should proceed in terms of process. How many votes we need, if we need to take a vote on individual items, as it should, as I believe it should, I don't know. And what is the process? Is the mayor need to sign on each item after that? Or we are taking this as a whole? And if we take it as a whole, if we're taking it as a whole, I think that we should go through every single one of them and make sure that everybody's voting on what they think they're voting. So I would like to, through you, I would like to ask the city attorney for at least the process of how we're doing this.
Good evening. So you're right, Councilor Rodriguez. There are two before you. And I guess just for a point of clarification, there's a January 11th document and an updated March 11th document. But I believe that the March 11th document contains an amendment, which I know in other meetings, Council President, you've referred to them as the body amendments, which I don't believe that the City Charter Committee voted on.
Correct, but with the ordinance committee, because the charter review sent up all the changes, the ordinance committee amended it. They took many of the items that were presented by the charter review, and then at that point added the quote-unquote body amendments as part of that, which is why you, on almost immediately after that meeting of the ordinance committee meeting that took place on the 9th, you sent something to the council on the
March 11th.
on the 11th,
Right.
because the ordinance committee included that as
Okay.
part of their thing. So now that became part of the underlying package.
Right, so I guess when you guys are taking a vote right now, are you taking a vote on the March or the January?
We're taking it on the March because that's what the ordinance committee sent up to the full council.
So just with that in mind, what I believe that the city council is trying to do is a home rule petition. So I won't bog down in details, but there's several ways to amend the charter. One of them is a home rule petition. But a home rule petition, the procedure for that is that once a vote is taken at the city council level, it does need to be a majority vote, not a supermajority, so there will need to be 5 votes. It then would go to the mayor. The mayor has to sign off on it in order for it to go to the legislature. And then there's a procedure up at the legislature, but here at the local level, that is what would have to be done, is that you need 5 votes at least 5 votes at the city council level, and you need the mayor's agreement in order to put this forward to the legislature. And because it's a home rule petition, I don't believe that there is a, if he doesn't sign, it's not like you could override any non-signature. This isn't a veto power, this is just it's a separate procedure that's separate and apart from a local ordinance. I guess one of the conversations that we were trying to have is how exactly would be the best way to do it, and I guess I leave that up to the council. I think that there are a lot of provisions in here that if you are not in agreement with it, you might want to go line by line. I do understand that that would really prolong this procedure, but if it is something that you are interested in doing, then it might make sense. I think the two ways to do it is either vote on each amendment as they come up or vote on the document as a whole. But I think what's before you at this point is to vote on the document as a whole. And then whether or not you want to make any amendments, you would have to make an amendment on a line-by-line basis.
So, councilors, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. There is a lot of things here that we should, as a whole, we should discuss in details. And there is a lot of changes to the shadow that I presented here that you probably, councilors, you probably don't agree, or you probably agree. If we take one item individually, we're gonna have to take all of them individually, or we can make separate package, perhaps.
Well, because the vote before you right now is on the whole package, you can make an amendment on just one of the lines and leave the rest intact.
Yeah, what I meant is changing the, okay, I got you, it's the sentence. So essentially, I would like to open the discussion on one of the items. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Let me just do housekeeping, and I'll come back to you for that amendment, and you still have the floor, and then at the second person on the floor will be Councilor Payano, followed by Councilor Dela Cruz. So you're going to retain the floor. So I just want, as a point of process, we will certainly be looking for amendments as you're about to offer, Councilor Rodriguez, and certainly we will look for that. Certainly we're looking for a second for any amendment that's offered this evening, and then we can go for a vote. If there is something, so a couple of things. If there is something, an amendment that you're looking to add some language to, the request is that just to make sure that we're all sure about what that is, and because we want the city attorney to provide her opinion as to how that change would be. She has already mentioned to me, and you can reiterate that she is not prepared this evening to make any opinions regarding amendments on the floor. She wants to have the ability to in due diligence, look at the amendment, and then offer her opinion, and so she will not provide that this evening to us. So if we get something, we should give it, and if it gets the 2 votes, and conceptually we think the idea is good, let's send it to the city attorney. She will then look at it and then give us an opinion as to whether or not that is constitutional or what. It's her opinion on that and how that should be phrased. That's one. The second thing is, we've got 2 new councilors that are here. We also have a new mayor since we started this process. So a lot of time has come before we started this over a year ago now. And so as a courtesy, it would make a lot of sense that whatever we do here tonight, whatever we send to the city attorney, we're not going to have a final vote this evening. That should go as a courtesy to the mayor, so the mayor can review and have some input, because he wasn't here when we started this, and then bring it back down for a final vote whenever that 2-step review is completed. So I think that's how that's how I think we should go ahead and do this. There's no easy way of doing it, I don't think, but that seems to make some sense. So councils have an opportunity to make a motion if they so choose. If it's accepted, please write it down. That way we have your words, and then we can work on it. Councilor Rodriguez.
So essentially, if I hear it correctly, so you wanted to send this document to the mayor, and that way he review it before we take a vote as a package.
That would be the intent of the chair.
So, and then if there is a motion on the table to accept the package, to approve it.
We
So
need
is
to have-
that
yes,
motion
right.
need to be withdrawn?
We need to have an underlying, we need to vote on something. So now we have something that we can vote on. We can make a motion to simply table whatever it is and then send the document to the mayor for review and then come back. But we make the, we need a place to start the discussion. So now we have it. We've got the underlying item.
No, I think essentially what I would like to do is somehow have the opportunity, every member of the committee, to take a vote line by line, not necessarily read it, make sure that we agree upon it. Everybody gonna have to read it ahead of time. And there is items here that I think it should go to either the voters or it should go in an open discussion specifically. So, but if the intention is to send it to the mayor before, it's not, doesn't make sense to
Council President?
open the floor right now.
Use the floor, Councilor Payano.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I think the intention of today is for us to go through these documents, and what we would be sending to the mayor is basically a finished copy. You know, essentially what we would be willing to vote for. That's what I hope we would do, because it wouldn't make sense for us to send him something that isn't complete yet, right? So that way we can send it to the mayor and ensure that the mayor is going to approve it, and if there are other amendments, that the city attorney has sufficient time to review and include it. Now, I think that we've had this document with us for about 3 years. We've been having sort of these discussions. I would say that if, instead of us going line by line, I think that the best approach would be, if there are issues with any of these items, that individual counselors would say, you know, essentially, whatever the section is, I want to review section, you know, whatever it is, and make the following amendments. If there are no issues, then, you know, there wouldn't be a reason for us to go through each of these items. I think this has been, for the last 2 months, this has been brought up. You know, every council has had the opportunity to review these changes. I think the only thing that is new, besides what the document that the city attorney put out, was it last year? Yeah, last year, is these new amendments. And I think those amendments are things that haven't been discussed and have only been shown to us in the last 2 weeks, and probably there'll be a lot more discussions on those. But what I would suggest to the council and to my fellow colleagues, if we can take, like, if it turns out that people have an issue with each piece and want to make an amendment to each piece, and so be it. But I think it would just save us enough time if we're only talking about these sections where there might be potential disagreement or folks want to make changes.
Councilor Dela Cruz, do you still wish to speak on this matter? Councilor Dela Cruz?
Thank you, Council President. I think that we should address concerns and issues that we have in the entire article, and find out at the end of this meeting to see if we are ready to send it to the mayor. Because if there is a lot of changes that we need to make, then it doesn't make sense to send it to the mayor. I think together with the Ms. Rano, we should be working on the changes and then submit that copy to the mayor.
Very good. So let's do this. Listening to that, I know that one of the counselors has an item that she wants to put on for an amendment, and she's put this before us. So let's start off with Councilor Levy. Councilor, you have an amendment that you have before the council.
Hold on 1 second.
Motion on the floor, right? What about it? Do you want to make an amendment, Councilor Levy?
Yes, Mr. President, I think so that everybody already got the amendment that I was trying to do it. It's regarding the office of the city election, so that the office of the city election, according to Ms. Ruano, I spoke with Ms. Ruano just to get me all the information on this regard. And this is the publication for the hearing, if it's going to be required. But I'm sorry, I think so that I'm the wrong way, on the wrong one.
You want to take this as a friendly amendment or an amendment? We can either take it as a friendly amendment or we can.
I mean, I can take it as a friendly amendment, but I think that the counselor, has she finished stating her reason?
Well, I think what she should do is say that she's got an elections division amendment that deals with bringing it under the city council's jurisdiction, looking for a second, and then maybe at that point, she can discuss the why she's doing this. Maybe she just reads letter D, which is the elections division section. Counselor, maybe you could just read that motion, small section D, election division.
Of the city of Lawrence shall be under the general supervision, management, and control of the city council. And the city council is the appointed authority for the election division staff.
There's the
That's
amendment.
my,
There's the amendment. Is that a friendly amendment? If it is, does the Mr. Payano, the sponsor, wish to accept?
Council President, can I ask a question?
You may.
Thank you. So it looks like this. That is fine with me. I still have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Levy, so I see that in the old charter, this would be removing the Board of Assessors.
removing what, please?
So we have the city attorney here. City attorney, can you just talk us through that?
So her amendment is assuming if you are adopting the March 11th, that the Board of Assessors has already been deleted. The Board of Assessors, under the CAFO law, is no longer appointed by City Council. It's appointed by the CAFO, subject to the approval of the mayor. So this would be a second step, assuming that you've adopted the changes already put forth on the March 11th document. So on the March 11th document is just assuming that you're going to delete D in its entirety. But then if the council wants to put another department under the supervision of the city council, it's just the most appropriate place to put it because it's there underneath the city clerk and the city attorney. So that's why it's written that way. But I just did want to clarify that it does seem like she's trying to delete the Board of Assessors, but she's not. It would just be the second step if you were to adopt the March 11th. Section D, Board of Assessors, would already be deleted, and we would just put in its place the Elections Division.
City Attorney, can you direct me where in the memo we were deleting 3.6D? I know that there's a change in 3.6A. Oh, I see it now. Yep, 3.6D.
It would be on page 3, section 5.
Yep, I see it. Thank you. So, Council President, through you, I am comfortable taking this as a friendly amendment if the other councilors are not opposed to it.
What I would do is I would ask to make it uniform. There's 4 of them that we have a motion to be made, and then second, that we all have an opportunity to do that, because the other way would be more challenging. So as if someone would just so the motion's been made, would you second that motion?
I'll second it. Motion
Motion made and seconded. Now, Councilor Levy, you can make your argument or why we should support this document.
One of the reasons is for many years, people are not feeling comfortable in the way that sometimes the election is being done, or how the mayor hide it or wants to block or taken out somebody that is working on the election because they are supporting another candidate. So I think so that by having this through under the city council, we are 9 people, and with the 2/3 of whatever decision that is going to be made at the election division is going to be made just by the council, we have two-third approval of that. So, si we are fighting somebody or we are hiding. So we are, right now, that's the city clerk is under the city council. So, and the city clerk also supervise the city election. Why instead of having this under the mayor? It doesn't matter the mayor. I'm not talking right now about the new mayor, whatever. But I think that everything that could be done in a very clear manner, more transparent, if we do it under the city council level.
Are there any other members who wish to speak on this amendment? Councilor Infante from District E.
I have a clarification question. So, all right, so the elections department is under the supervision of the city's clerk's office, but the mayor's office has control over it, or not control, but hiring control, hiring, okay. So if we were to change it for it to be under the city council, will it still be under the city clerk?
That's a question for the proponent, sponsor. Councilor Levy, it remains under the city clerk's jurisdiction, or is it being switched over to the city council?
It's under the city council. Any decision, like even say in there, any decision is under the city council. Any hiding, any fighting, so everything that has to be done is going to be by the supervision is under the city clerk in the same way that it is right now.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Infante still has the floor. Councilor Infante.
Mr. President, if that's the case, I mean, the council, each member of the council were all elected personnel. I wouldn't feel comfortable having that responsibility under the city council, if it's going to be like that.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes, I just want to clarify with Councilor Levy to see if we are on the same page. So, Councilor Levy, can you hear me?
Okay, so you can get more close to the phone, please? Oh, the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Levy, I would like to ask you. So, I think that essentially we agree upon what you want to do, but I want to make sure that this is essentially what you're looking for. So you're looking to take away the power of the mayor appointing personnel at the election division, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you want the city clerk to appoint those people, or you want the city council to appoint those people?
Whoever that is going to be working there.
Could you repeat that again, Councilor? Because the microphone wasn't quite on. Go ahead.
That's me?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you asking me?
Councilor Levy, because we need a little bit of a break between so they can turn your microphone on. I'm going to stop talking, and then you get the floor in about 2 seconds.
Okay. No, everything is under the city council. The city council is going to be the one who's going to make the decision. So whoever that is going to be working in the same way that we do the appointing for the city clerk, that we do the appointing for the city attorney. So it's practically everything is going to be under the jurisdiction of the city council.
But let me through you, Mr. Chair. But remember, perhaps under the city attorney's office, we only appoint her, and she's the one appointing the other attorneys. So we don't have to deal with the other attorneys. She recommended to us, and then we confirm those attorneys. Would you like those people working under the election division to be appointed by the clerk and then confirmed by the council?
I would like to ask the city attorney that she is there, what is gonna be like the best way for us to do it? I know that maybe it is more work, so, but okay, I would like her to respond to us if possible, through you, Mr. Chair.
So do you understand the question, city attorney?
I do, but it's not really a legal question. It's just my opinion, but it's not a legal opinion, it's just, what do I think? You could do both legally. And I know that's not answering her question, but I think that's more something that's within the 9 of yours job to figure out which is the best way.
How you do it in your department, through you?
But yeah, how we do it in our department is, I recommend any attorneys, and they're subject to confirmation by the city council. That's how the ordinances are currently written.
And through you, Mr. Chair, the reason that I'm asking you that, Councilor Levy, is because we are an elected body, and we cannot appoint people that are going to elect, or that are going to help on the election that we probably going to be elected. So that's a conflict. It's not an illegal conflict, but it could be looked at as we appoint those people, and that way we can get elected. So that's why it could be confirmed by us, but appointed by someone else. And on this case, the clerk. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
just
And
as, and I want to, so here's the order of stuff. I've got people who wish to speak. I first saw Councilor Payano, then I saw Councilor Del Rosario, then I saw the Vice President. I also want to make one point of information to the body. We do have the ability to confirm, and I suspect that we will be confirming, the Assistant City Clerk for elections, and that's going to be coming down to us soon. So we already have a little bit of that already built in. So who did I say? Councilor Payano and then Councilor Del Rosario.
Thank you, Council President. No, with my colleague, Councilor Rodriguez. So, Councilor Levy, I think I understand the intention, and I agree with the intention, but I think that this amendment might flow better if we changed it from City Council to City Clerk, and we added language saying that the City Council will confirm those positions. Because I think, but it's also, so I would go further. I think the intention of this is that there is potentially a perceived conflict of interest with any mayor hiring individuals there, whether it is done out of the, like this is the right person or not. There will always be someone that says, oh, this might be politically motivated. I think that if, just by shifting it to us, that idea will still be there, except instead of the mayor, it'll be the council as a whole. So I think, in order to ensure that we fix the sort of the error that you're looking to fix, I think it might be good for there to be a buffer between us and that. And also, I don't think that we, the council, should be in charge. I mean, it's like 4 people that work there? So that'd be, for us to be in charge and manage and supervise 4 other people, unless it's, this becomes a full-time position, I don't think we have the time or capacity to take something like that on.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Thank you for the opportunity. Councilor Rodriguez and also Pavel just basically said what I'm looking to say. That I think we shouldn't take up with the city council to hire or fire anybody on the election department. And what I agreed on, or what I agreed on, is to confirm them. I mean, the city clerk or whoever's doing the hiring right now, they can bring it to us and we can confirm them. But when it comes to hiring and firing, I don't think we should. It sounds and it looks, and there will be a conflict of interest. That's what Councilor Levy is trying to do. She's trying to take it away from the mayor's office, I'm assuming. So it will be a conflict of interest at the end. But if we are the one hiring and firing at the city council, it will look the same way as if it's the mayor. So it will be a conflict of interest. So it should be some type of change on the way she would like to do that. Confirming that, great, but somebody should do the hiring and firing. Thank you.
Councilor Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor President. I'm not gonna elaborate more because everything has been said. I'm just gonna, ask Councilor Levies if she feels okay, which I believe that's gonna be the proper way, just to continue handle that department, since the city clerk is the one supervise the election department, so that way you're gonna be taking a lot of pressure from us. And like Councilor Rodriguez was saying, you know, we are official elected, sometimes we are in an election that for whatever reason, we have 10 names, but for reason that we might know, one doesn't get picked, that can affect you. And also, I would have, if I were to be the city clerk, I would not feel comfortable for someone to be sending out to me that I don't have the authority, just to kind of check the qualification, if you are open to that suggestion. I think you did great, and thank you the time for putting this together, but I think that would be better off for everyone.
Councilor Rodriguez.
I think that we agree upon the way that we're gonna do that, right?
It's Councilor Levy's motion. Are we looking to make an amendment to the amendment that would then allow for the city clerk?
Council President, can I read the,
One at a time. So the clerk wrote what she thought was the amendment. Did you want to read that, clerk, as to how you interpreted the amendment?
So under section 3.6D, it would read Elections Division. The Elections Division of the city shall be under the general supervision, management, and control of the city clerk. The city clerk is the appointing authority for Elections Division staff with confirmation of the city council.
And right there, the following sentence, if we agree, will be, and those appointments will be exempt from section 3.7B of the city charter, which is the removal of those positions, which gonna require 6 majority vote of the city council, which could become a problem on an election, on a department like that one. I think that we should leave the city clerk to make a determination as of who she wants there. And the section 3.7B will take away from the clerk to do that type of work.
My recommendation on this is that this is going to have to go to the city attorney anyway, and if there is a conflict that you're anticipating, you may be right, I'm not making a decision on that, but the clerk can, not this clerk, the attorney can go ahead and see where there is a conflict in the ordinance or allowed for that to take place. So I think as the clerk wrote it, we send it to the city attorney, she will review it, and then perhaps, if that's what's necessary, we'll add that clause to it to get to the intent of what we're trying to accomplish. How am I doing?
Council President?
Can I get the city attorneys first, and then I can come to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to go first? Go ahead, Councilor.
Council President, I think what Councilor Rodriguez is stating is not that there might be a conflict, but saying that it would be more difficult for a manager to make certain decisions and obtain a vote of 6 counselor than of 5. And I think a vote of, as Councilor Rodriguez was thinking it, my initial impression was no, but I think that no was more direct, like when you're looking at directors, right, I think you need more than just a majority to ensure that you're putting the head of a department in there. But when you're looking at employees, I don't think that you need 6 counselors. I think if you can get a majority to hire someone, or I think that should be enough.
Do you want, I know you weren't supposed to opine today, but do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess I just want to clarify. Are you looking to get a supermajority to remove this staff, or you do not want a supermajority to remove this staff?
Through you, Mr. President, if we get those positions exempt from 3.7B, the removal of those positions will be under the city clerk, not the city council, which will require 6 votes. So essentially, what I would like to do is make sure that the city clerk have total control of that department and not necessarily the removal of somebody gonna depend on us, on the city council. So we'll be fully in control of the clerk, not necessarily us in terms of removing people from there.
Okay. No, just so I know which way, I mean, I think there could be ways to word it. Right. But just so everybody knows, these employees are nevertheless union employees. So they're already covered by the collective bargaining agreement. So you could add a layer of protection that they, if you wanted to, but you can't take away the just cause that they already have, because we already have contracts in place for those employees.
And the intention is not to take those right away, any rights, but right now, if we just keep the 3.7B, it will be another layer of removal.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look into it, but appointments under 3.6, this is an appointment under 3.6. Right, so appointments under 3.7 are mayoral appointments. This is not a mayoral appointment, this would be a city council. But if you do see under 3.6A, there is a 2/3 majority required for removal for city clerk and city attorney. You could put language in there that says, you know, these employees are not subject to the removal procedures under 3.6A. So there is wording, I just was unclear which way the council wanted to go, if they like the
Essentially,
2/3 or they don't like the 2/3.
The
Okay.
2/3 remove, right? I mean, just the city clerk will make that determination, not us.
Okay, I understand, okay.
The sponsor of the amendment wishes to speak, so can I go to the sponsor, Counselor Levy?
Are we talking about regarding if somebody's going to be fired from the position?
We're talking about your amendment, and then I think two things. We're talking about who has control, and people here are going to recommend that you change your amendment to move it from the city council to the clerk, and then looking to deal with the provision of termination, and whether or not there needs to be a supermajority of the council or not, or if the clerk can do that independently. And just so I'm clear on it, out of those three options, what is, I mean, I'm looking to you, I guess. What was it, Councilor Rodriguez, were you looking for? The clerk to have exclusive termination privileges, or a supermajority, or a regular majority of the council?
No, the clerk to be the exclusive removal power of those positions. I mean, obviously, they have union rights. She only have to go through the union things for removing somebody, not the city clerk, not the city council as well.
So does that help, Councilor Levy?
No power from the city council for the removing, or okay. So if anything arises and like practically, the city clerk doesn't like it, this person, he can remove that person without asking us, or no?
So the answer to that question specifically, as I understand it, is the clerk has the ability to go ahead and do that, but the individuals are union, and they need to have cause for, and then there's a whole set of processes that need to take place for any kind of removal process. So even if the clerk doesn't like the person and says, I'm firing you, well, you just can't do it like that. Well, because they're union, there's civil process to get to that termination portion. Am I right or am I wrong on that? I think that I'm right. Is that right?
Council President, through you, I think Councilor Levy what Councilor Levy is discussing is her original motion, and I think we're discussing this amendment to her motion that hasn't been had, and she hasn't accepted it as a friendly amendment. So I think like the first question to Councilor Levy is, does she accept this as a friendly amendment? And no, but I think that her understanding of it is relating to, I don't think she understands that we are,
okay.
We're trying to change it.
Sure. So Councilor Levy, just to kind of, and you probably know what's happening, but for maybe some of us who aren't aware, we have your amendment on the floor as it is written. Councilors are now discussing ways, there seems to be a desire to make some changes to your amendment. You are the author of the amendment. We are going to need to take a vote on your amendment. And now what I'm hearing from some of our colleagues is that they're looking to ask you to amend your own amendment to reflect the two things I just mentioned. One, that the city clerk, rather than the city council, will be able to do the hiring. Number two, the city clerk, with the union provisions, can go ahead and do the termination and the firings. Is that clear?
Okay, yes, so the city council, right now, we're gonna change it to the city council to be able to hire it. Okay, no.
No. So your language, if you look at your amendment, it would be read like this. If you take your piece of paper, can I see your piece of paper? The election division of the city shall be under the general supervision, management, and control of the city clerk. That's your first change, city clerk. The next change, the city clerk, that's your second change, is the appointing authority for the elections division staff. And that's it. And then the discussion kind of varied about whether or not we need to include the termination clause or not. Is that if we leave, and I'll ask the city attorney that question, if we leave that as is, does that automatically refer to the city clerk to have it? Do we have to put that in there, that we want the clerk to be able to do the firing?
I'd have to look into that because I don't know if the CBA reads that it is the appointing, I don't know what the CBA reads for those positions. But I will tell you that that is, I know we were trying to draw a parallel to the city attorney's office, but just so you're aware, I'm not the appointing authority, so I have no authority to terminate the employees in my office. It is nevertheless the mayor, even though I recommend and you confirm. Just because by default, the mayor is the appointing authority. So if you were to change it, like I said, I'd have to see what the CBA says because that is a drastic change.
And this is the reason why we're going to send it up to you anyway. But we want to get the concept. So we're trying to get the concept. So you're the key person, Councilor Levy. If you wish to go ahead and to modify your amendment in the manner that we're speaking, keeping in part the caveat that we're a little unsure about the end clause because of the union contract and the collective bargaining agreements. We're just not sure how that's going to play. And the city attorney cannot opine on that today. She needs to review that. So did you want to change your amendment to reflect at least what we can agree to right now, or do you want it or not?
Okay, my consent, okay, on this regard is like we are putting right now, it's like we are changing everything from the mayor to the city clerk. And we, as a body, as a, city council, is not getting any participation in any decision. That is practically, we are putting everything on the one person again, instead of having the supervision of the city council on everything on the city election division. That's my only concern. I agree that the city clerk, okay, should supervise, manager, and but I think so also that the city council should be part of the after whatever that is going to be hired, okay, that we should also ratify or agree, on the person that is going to be hired, and also at the end for any firing, maybe with the communication to us or whatever, and reason. I know when somebody is part of the union, so she has to go through whatever that's the way that they have the union.
Here's my recommendation. It doesn't appear as though Councilor Levy is wishing to amend her motion. Why don't we just take a vote on the motion? Now, after that vote is taken, if it votes favorably, then when it's done. If we vote it down, then another city councilor can offer an amendment just as was written. So we have that option. I
don't know if it's that she's been having difficult.
She's getting it, but she disagrees.
I agree with.
What she's asking now, what she's asking is that we're not gonna have that we're not gonna have any participation, when the reality is that we are going to have participations. What is gonna happen is the same. The name is gonna be sending out to us, right? So we are the one have to make the final decision, so we are participating. So that's the problem that I think that this is the part that is confused, and I don't know if she's not hearing correctly, just because of the difficult, technical difficulty.
So, Council President, I think that what Councilor Levy's trying to state, what she believes is that the city council should have a stronger, I don't know how to articulate correctly, but more involvement than what several of the councilor members have stated. It sounds like that is what Councilor Levy is looking for. Councilor Levy is looking for the council to be part of the appointment and also part of the, so for example, if someone's going to be let go, that it comes to the council for a vote. That's what I'm hearing from Councilor Levy. That's what she's looking for.
We're gonna let Councilor Levy speak, and then I think we're gonna make an executive decision here. We're gonna vote on this one way or the other, and then we're going to, if it goes down, we're gonna look for another amendment, and I think I know where the amendment is going. So, Councilor Levy, one more bite of the apple, you got the floor.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Councilor.
Okay, so, I agree with, with Councilor Payano was saying. That is my concern, that we do not have, it's any participation, either at the hiring or when fighting the people. So I think that we should, as so that the city clerk, have the power to choose or interview and do whatever, when they're going to be hiring someone. But the final appointing, has to come by the city council. The same way that we do it with the city clerk, or that we do it with the city attorney.
President, point of parliament,
Just make your comment. Go ahead, Councilor Rodriguez.
can you please read the amendment to her, and that way she can listen again?
I'm going to read this one more time. And Councilor Levy's going to say, yes, this is my amendment. No, this is not my amendment. If she says, yes, this is my amendment, I'm going to ask for a roll call. If she says, no, this is not my amendment, we're going to have a roll call on the current language without these changes. Are we all clear on this? Here we go. Why don't you read it? Nice and slow.
Section 3.6D, Elections Division. The Elections Division of the city shall be under the general supervision, management, and control of the city clerk. The city clerk is the appointing authority for Elections Division staff. Confirmation of appointments is required by the city council.
Councilor Levy, agree or disagree with that language?
Yes.
The motion has now been amended to that. I am now asking for a roll call vote on the amended to the amendment of the language. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Salinas.
Yes.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes, the amendment is now part of the underlying
President,
package. I'm just going to go. part of the package that we send it to the mayor. This is
The council has, I'm gonna say approved in quotes, approved that, we haven't really approved it yet, but approved that, so.
So you're gonna-
City attorney's gonna get that.
No, what I would like to know for sure is that whether or not we are, though the people working under the election division will be under the removal portion of the charter, section 3.6A, which is gonna have to be separate from the union, also 2/3 of the city council, which is the section 3.6A. And if that's the case, and then we're gonna exempt those personnel from that section, because otherwise, it's gonna be an issue for the clerk to manage that department.
The mo-
I will make a motion to have the people working under the city, under the election division to be exempt from section 3.6A, obviously with the revision of the city attorney to see if they can be removed from there, because we just have them there right now. If we don't remove that portion, they already gonna be there.
Well, they're not included right now, so I think what you want your motion to be is a motion for language that they are not subject to removal by 2/3 of city council.
Yes, that's my motion. I mean, the motion will be
That's what he's.
the language related to the removal of, can you offer the language? To make sure.
Put it in the minutes and send it up. I mean, I'd have to, what you're looking for is language to the effect that the removal process would not be subject to city council.
Would you be so kind as just to write that down? That way we have a written document of that. Would you, and that's one of the things that'd be helpful, so we're not lost in the translation here.
I have a question for the city attorney.
Yes, Council Piano.
Thank you, Council President. Madam City Attorney, so I think at one point you mentioned, so currently the way it's stated, right, if I am the city clerk and I am firing somebody, the way that it's stated, what would, and I know that you haven't done sufficient review, but from what you hear about it right now, what do you think? No, so the city attorney has already said that she is not going to be writing language at the moment. So I think that the best route is for you to come as close to what it is that you're looking for, and if it passes, through the minutes, the city attorney will then turn that into the right language that should be on there. Is that correct, city attorney?
Right.
Okay, so to my question, I am a city clerk. I just let go my colleague here, right? I've just let her go. What would be the process currently as it stands with Councilor Levy's amendment?
I don't know, because the language that she's proposed is that it makes the city council the appointing authority. So I would need to see under the CBA.
Right, so
To just the city clerk is the
yeah,
appointing authority?
the current amendment, we understand that it could be that after you do this review and you look at the CBA, there's a lot of conflicts and we have to relook at this, right? Assuming that there is no conflict with the CBA, the current amendment as it stands is that the city clerk appoints, the council confirms. It is currently silent on what happens if the city clerk has to let someone go. So Councilor Rodriguez is making an amendment to, for there to be language around what happens if the city clerk has to let someone go. Without that amendment there, what is the process?
Under the CBA, you would have to issue a notice of intent to terminate, and you would have to give them a hearing, and then the hearing officer would determine if termination is appropriate. If they determine termination is appropriate, they can still grieve that. So it would follow the typical
point of
union
information there.
procedures.
So it sounds like, Councilor Rodriguez, it sounds like we might not need to do the motion because it would be going under the CBA and it wouldn't come to the council.
Yes, Correct. Through you, Mr. President.
You got it.
Yes, but I'm not talking about not necessarily termination of employment of that person. It could be a transfer to another department. It could be that that person is going to inspectional services, and somehow they work a deal of transferring that person to another department, which is agreeable, that we're not terminating the person's employment, but yes, the person's employment at the election division is no longer there, but it will be a conflict still because the city clerk won't be able to even transfer somebody to another department. And that's basically what my concern will be. It will be more, not necessarily termination. We're focusing on, firing somebody. No, it could be just transferring somebody to another department.
Right.
And then
So
that
she-
will be an
yeah.
issue.
She wouldn't have that authority because she's not the appointing authority for any other departments. So she could only hire and fire, she couldn't transfer. But I think the issue becomes, under the CBA, you have progressive discipline. So this may be your first infraction, and maybe something is happening where a transfer is the best bet. She doesn't have that option.
And she doesn't have that option under this language, or she won't have that option at all?
Because she's not the appointing authority for any other department. You would have only made it for the elections division, so she's not even the
And-
appointing authority for her own department.
We do see Counselor Levy who has her hand up. Counselor Levy, we see you. Go ahead.
Yes, when I just raised my hand was after the motion, asking the same question. So what is going to happen with the fighting? So if for any reason, like a city clerk having some problem or whatever, and she want to fight someone, how is going to proceed with this, Because it's nothing in there. Nothing in there regarding, okay, this is the way that we're going to follow, we're going to have it, or again, are we going to have any participation on the fighting of the person? I'm not talking about transfers, so maybe for the transfer we have to figure it out. But for fighting the person, because anything can happen.
And I think that what the city attorney has mentioned is that because of the union process, that if the city clerk decides they're going to fire somebody, it can't happen like that. There's progressive discipline, so not on your first infraction. There needs to be a series of things that take place. And I guess your question is, what happens if the clerk starts to be crazy and starts doing infractions? Well, then there's appeal rights, and there's administrative hearings and such. I'm not a labor expert, but my understanding is that there are steps. Councilor Levy.
Any person that work any person that work at the city election division is part of the union?
Yes.
Currently, all the entire staff in the selection division, everybody, right? Even the assistant clerks? Every,
No, there's.
all but one in the elections.
Because I know that with the union, we have to follow whatever the direction, or whatever is the problem with the union. But what happened with that person? See, you don't want it or you don't like it, what is going to be the procedure to follow when we do the change?
Right, so there's a series of rights that are still inherent in the position, right? So I just don't think, these are not at-will employees, meaning that they can fire them for any reason or any reason at any time. This is not one of those situations here. So, and now I'm going to the legal area that I should really be looking at the city attorney for, but I think that the individuals are, I'm going to use the quotes, protected in the elections division. Should a rogue city clerk decide they were going to start looking at to do things, so I think there's some protections there. Now, I'm not making any amendments here, but it sounds to me as though, from listening, that whatever issue we thought we had is not there anymore based on the explanation. So unless somebody has something to add to this, I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay. At this rate, we'll be here till tomorrow, but no, Counselor. Here's something I think might be easy. the city clerk put this on the city agenda as an amendment. This was Legislative Procedures 3.8A. Again, we will need, city clerk, please explain this, and this will need a sponsor by a city councilor, if somebody agrees.
I can sponsor it.
Oh, okay, we're going to already have a sponsor. The motion, this is 3.8A, solitary congratulatory resolution has been now sponsored. I'm looking for a second, and we'll have a discussion. Seconded by the Vice President. Clerk, if you wouldn't mind describing this one.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. President. This is something that I believe most other communities, most legislative bodies in other communities have the ability to, in one meeting, introduce and approve a congratulatory resolution. So it wouldn't have to come in, get referred to a committee, and then come back out. It gives counselors a tool where they can, recognize somebody returning from the military, somebody who has done community service in an extraordinary way, and not miss the moment. There's something, it deserves recognition right away, and this just gives you a tool to be able to do it, and just get it done in one night. It would require changing 3.8A, but then there's also another area that would need to be changed, and the city attorney had pointed that out. But that's the essence of it.
Is there any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, looking to include this as part of the underlying package. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Levy. President LaPlante.
Yes, so now this is part of the underlying package. Of course, this, like all the other ones, will be going to the city attorney for one final review and to the mayor eventually. The next one, city clerk, since you have two of them, this one is dealing, and maybe we'll do the same, this is dealing for loan orders and publishing of documents and putting them in a, rather than traditional print, but can be putting them online or in a technology-based format. Councilor Payano, do you want to, Councilor Vice President Estela Reyes, and seconded by Councilor Payano. Okay. Clerk, why don't you describe this one?
Thank you, Mr. President. I put this in as a result of the conversation that took place the last time I came before the City Council to ask for some additional funds for advertising. I think it was $30,000. The advertising budget is just gone crazy because of the expense associated with publishing our public hearings. And through that conversation, there seemed to be a desire, Councilor Rodriguez in particular, challenged me with, finding out how much we would save and what other communities were doing this. And the bottom line is the source that we were using before is not going to be going back to a hard copy paper. So in order to do business and save money, and it's not just about saving money, it's about reaching a broader audience, truly reaching the citizens of Lawrence. I honestly don't believe for a minute that there are very many people who are reading those tiny little notices that we pay a lot of money for in the Eagle Tribune that are in English only. You can barely see them. We're checking off a box. But in order to even have a path forward to doing something different, the city attorney has pointed out the city charter would need to be changed. So this language would change the city charter, and it would, allow for either traditional print or in an online technology-based format. But if the council did move this forward and accept it, there are numerous places in the charter where public hearings are mentioned. So all of those places would need to be updated to reflect the new language.
I had a question. We would need to have charter changes throughout to adopt these things?
So I think that if you're going to say, if you're going to accept the concept that you're good with an online technology-based format, every place in the charter where it says publish in a newspaper, it would now need those words, I guess. I mean, that's a question for the city attorney. We publish the budget, we publish the capital the capital plan. Public hearings are mentioned numerous places, right? I've listed the places just, by a basic search, but that might not be comprehensive.
So motion has been made and it has been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. I just want one point of clarification. So when if this is adopted or as part of the underlying motion, it's obviously the will of the council, I would imagine, throughout the charter, whenever we see newspaper or print, that this would be included in there. So do we, through you, City Attorney, do we need to actually say that, or is that pretty much understood as part of this amendment?
And if you just reflect that in whatever vote you're taking, then you plan to include it. You mean as opposed to saying, okay, also in 6.3 or 9.5, instead of enumerating, yeah, if you just said it in time where publication is required by newspaper, you want to add that it can be in an online format.
Okay.
I think I understand, but I would just
I think
add to that, if I can
it's
add.
in there. It's in there. Super. I think, so we have it. I just want to make it clear. I think we've got it not limited but not including, and we have that inside there, so we're good. Okay.
Can I just add to this? I don't know if this is what you just said, but
Yep.
my only thing would be that wherever it says newspaper, you're going to change it to online. I would also add the language that is appended after that, which says, and in any other manner, and in any other additional manner required by law or by ordinance, because a lot of publication by newspaper is by state law. Well, it's in this one, but if is your vote that you're just adding the online component, or you're adding the online component together with or in any additional manner as required by law? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know what the other provisions say. I don't know if they include the in any additional manner provided by law or ordinance. And I'm just saying that that language should also be appended every single time that you add or online, because there may be instances where it is required by law to be published in a newspaper.
Through you, Council President.
Council panel.
But if this passes as a home rule petition and it passes the State House and is signed by the governor, wouldn't that mean that that regardless of that state law, they're giving us approval to do it this certain way?
It would, but they'll probably reject it. So you can write that, but I'm just giving advice on the best way to pass what you're looking for.
I just remember
Yep.
we passed a home rule petition not so long ago that ran counter to state law, and so I don't see us why.
I think the newspaper lobbies a lot for this. That's why.
Okay. So are we leaving this as is? If we're leaving this as is, I'm going to call the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy. Councilor
Council
Levy.
Levy? Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Underwater. That's a special answer.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes. Council Del Rosario, we marked you down as a yes. Okay. Yes, okay, very good. Next one, and the fourth one out of the written things, is this one's by the city attorney. The city attorney was looking for gender-neutral language. I'm looking for someone to, Counselor Payano
Second.
Makes the motion, and seconded by the vice president. City attorney, this is your amendment.
Also, at some point, if we can go back to the clerk's amendments, because I do have 2 notes on it, but we can move on, and then if we can go back.
Okay.
Okay, but moving on, with the charter provisions for the city attorney, I had a conversation with Council Vice President Reyes on this, and just specifically looking for gender-neutral language. So as you could see in the draft that I provided, it's just in 2 locations. The new section that I'm proposing is at the top, just changing the he, him, essentially to just the word city attorney. And then that's the specific one that I'm requesting, but I do know that I have heard other counselors kind of requesting more of a global change to the entire charter, just to kind of bring it up to modern standards and make it more gender neutral, where you see either it's predominantly a he, him, and to change it to whether it's, the sentence, the word like city attorney in this situation or something else. But for at this time, I guess I'm just proposing the one specifically to the city attorney's office, but if this body is inclined to change it globally, I'd be more than happy to go through the charter and make those changes.
Council President, I would like to amend my original motion and state that throughout the charter, that gender-neutral pronouns be changed. Or pronouns be changed to be gender-neutral.
So you're obviously amending your own motion. It's the same thing. It's this one and all throughout the charter. So, okay. So the motion has been amended. So now this is gender neutral throughout the charter. Motion's been made. It's been properly second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario. Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Counselor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Counselor Levy.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes. The motion is now included as part of an underlying document. I am now opening the floor to members of the council. Oh, did you want to deal with the clerk's issue now? Let's do it now. Go ahead.
Sorry, I do not mean to prolong this, but I just wanted a point of clarification, because there are 2 amendments here, one under 3.8A and D. A having to do with the change for solely congratulatory resolutions. One of the things that I do believe the clerk touched upon, and I just don't know if it requires another vote, is that I do believe that Charter 3.5D would also need to be changed. So under 3.5D, it states that, just paraphrasing, that all business shall be referred for study and recommendation before action is taken. I'm basically saying that everything has to be referred to a standing committee. So I believe if we are taking solely congratulatory issues, the day that they are introduced, we would also need to amend 3.5D so that the charter doesn't also require it to be sent down to a standing committee. Because I believe that that's what would accomplish what the clerk's amendment is looking to do.
So what we could do, we can certainly, offer an amendment, another amendment to that, or we can just make a motion to adjourn, or we can reconsider and re-offer the motion. So.
I think offering the amendment sounds faster.
Okay. So there's that.
So I'd like to offer that amendment.
So this is an amendment to change section 3.8D to.
3.5D.
3.5D.
Right.
And then which
There's no subsection, it's kind of the intro.
Gotcha.
The intro says that the city council shall provide for the establishment of standing committees to which all business, and at that point, I would offer that it should
Except
be,
resolutions.
comma, except solely congratulatory resolutions.
Solely congratulatory
Comma,
resolutions,
to be referred for study and recommendation. So that
that's
would
it.
go hand in hand with the
Just
clerks.
one clause inside there,
Yes.
right? So again, so the amendment is as follows: City council shall provide for the establishment of standing committees to which all business, in parentheses, except solely congratulatory resolutions shall be referred for study and recommendation for the et cetera, et
That's
cetera.
correct, yep.
Are we all clear on that amendment? Do you have it written down? So we got it? Okay. So I'll need someone to offer did you make that motion already? It's been made, it's been seconded, discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Counsel Levy. Counsel Levy?
Yes.
Yes.
Counsel Payano?
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes?
Yes.
Counsel Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counsel Del Rosario?
Yes.
Counsel Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Counsel Infante?
Yes.
President LaPlante?
Yes, that motion is now part of the underlying motion. Now, I'm going to open up the floor for further amendments, if any.
Yes, Council President.
So you have the floor, Councilor Rodriguez. Will you be working off of the March 11th memo or something completely different? Okay, so let's see what you got, and then we'll figure that out. Go ahead.
Section 6, 3.5 on the charter.
So are we,
Basically, on this section 6, we adding a couple of committees to be a standing committee.
Councilor Rodriguez, I believe that several of us have 11th memo, and we don't have the memo before. Is that the March 11th memo? Can you go to the front of that memo? So, if Councilor Rodriguez, if you're gonna read from that memo, I can make copies of that.
It might be the January 11th one.
So there are two memos. The second memo was written after it came from the city attorney's office. I believe the first memo was after it came from the charter committee. But I'm interested in hearing what you're saying. But I think it might be good for us to read from the document that you're looking at.
No, I was looking because hold on, let me go back. I was looking at the two documents, and the second document was the one that have all the changes. I mean, the more extensive document than the one that I have here. On this one, on the March 11, that section 6 is not as extensive as the second one. On the second one, it's more like we adding more committees, and on that one, we have a couple other things.
Councilor Rodriguez, can we just make copies of that set, because we don't have that document?
I think you do. He is looking at page 3 of the January 11th document. So you're talking about, and I don't want to speak for you, the Committee on Public Health and the Committee on Arts and Culture? That's the January 11th document. On January 11th, page 3, I believe that the Charter Committee had wanted to add 2 standing committees to section 3.5 of the Charter, a Committee on Public Health, Safety, Transportation, and Utilities, and a Committee on Arts, Culture, Parks, and Recreation. Is that the amendment that you're speaking of, Councilor Rodriguez? Yep, okay. So everyone should have the January 11th document.
Just, so that document was sent to us, it is, but I don't think that it was printed out, so, yep, I know, but all of us have, well, you guys all have it except me, okay.
Yeah.
So what I mean is, like, what document are we adopting? We're adopting the
No,
March 11?
I'm going to repeat, the March 11th one is the March 11th one is the one that was sent over by the ordinance committee. The January one was not vetted by the ordinance committee. It was simply a measure that was reviewed after the charter review met. The ordinance committee had every right to go ahead and review and make changes, and they did. And those changes, if you're curious, will look like this. These handwritten notes are what came out of the ordinance committee, and the vote tallies on them, so you have a chance to take a look at what was included and what was not included.
But Councilor Rodriguez, it can be, since it's not in the March 11th, you can propose it as an amendment. It is open to amendment. But I would just say, I did happen to notice on the city council agenda that there are other standing committees that are being proposed. So if you do want to bring it, this might be the time.
Can you say the page number, please?
Page 3 of the January 11th.
Page 3 on that memo, yeah, from March 9, right?
Nope, January 11th.
January 11. So on that committee, we're talking about standing committees. And the fact that we are going to be discussing that on at the ordinance committee, I think that any way the charter should be amended if we accept any of those committees. The safety committee to be a standing committee proposed by, I believe, everybody here. The education committee, which was proposed by Maria de la Cruz, I believe 4 years ago. In the Economic Development Committee, which I think we should have some type of conversations on that. And that's going to be the adding those to the standing committee.
Just so there's I believe you're looking to make a motion. You're making a motion to add a committee on public health, safety, transportation, and utilities, to which shall be referred all matters that will need policy direction and oversight, and make recommendations or reference to the general health and safety of the public transportation and utilities concerned. And you're adding another committee called the Committee on Arts, Culture, Parks, and Recreation, to which shall be referred all matters involving the arts, culture, parks, and recreation.
Yes,
That's what your motion is.
Well, my motion is more related to 3 committees that I just proposed to be added, which are the Public Safety Committee to be a standing committee, the Economic Development, different than this, Economic Development, and a committee on education that is going to be related to, is different than that document.
So we're not even looking at this?
No.
Okay. Forget that.
Yep.
Okay.
So those are the 3 committees, because we're going to be discussing that, and I believe that if we agree upon that, we have to add it to the charter review. So this is the time to review the charter, right?
So Counselor, please give me, we're not even using that now, but please give me please give us the official names of the committee that you're looking to have, and what their jurisdiction is. Need a copy too? I don't. And as the counselor is putting together his amendment, the question is that we're adding, we're not taking anything out, we're just adding. Is that correct? Okay. Do you know what the jurisdiction is for each one of these? Is it just, I mean, it's...
What do you mean, the jurisdiction? I mean,
So-
there's going to be a standing committee.
Yeah.
Any item related to public safety,
Okay.
like we have a committee for a year now, will be under the public safety committee. Anything related to economic development, perhaps new ideas about how to improve the economic development of the city coming from the citizens, perhaps any tips that we're going to be given to that isn't related to economic development. We're gonna discuss that on two committees, which is the Budget and Finance and Economic Development, looking at the impact of those benefit to the local economy, and a committee on education that is going to be different than the school committee, but related to perhaps it could be related to the safety concern of the school, but it could also have an open conversation about the school department and this body, which is the city council, and talk about education issues that it might arise to the city council, not overlapping with the power of the school committee.
Do you, Council President?
I saw Councilor Payano, then I called Councilor Infante. I did not see you, Councilor. I did not see you. So Payano, Infante, De La Cruz, in that order is how I saw it.
Rodriguez, so I think, one of the difficulties, I think, especially, remember our 4 years in the Public Safety Committee, was sometimes it was difficult for us to get quorum. I think, adding and while I would be, potentially in favor of solidifying the Public Safety Committee within the charter, and I know we talked in depth about, essentially what this would do with the language that was stated here. I don't know why I didn't make it to the other motion. I appreciate the fact that you're bringing it up, because I lost sight of that. So one of the things that we talked about in the Charter Committee was taking some of the things that was in the ordinance and putting it through public safety. And I think that line, that amendment done in the charter would be able to do that, would relieve some pressure off the ordinance committee. However, us adding several other committees as well, it would be, I don't know how feasible it would be to ensure that we are obtaining proper quorum at all these other committees. Because what we're talking about, it was hard enough with public safety trying to meet when there were, I had competing individuals like my colleague and other colleagues that were essentially one-upping public safety because they had their own scheduled meeting there.
No, I mean, through you, Mr. Chair.
I did.
All right.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes, and I understand that it could be a challenge, but like you say, you mentioned before when we were discussing the hybrid meeting, that we have a relation between the voters and the elected officials, that if we miss in those meetings, the voters essentially are the ones that are going to determine that that councilor in particular is not going to those committees, is not doing his or her job. So essentially, that councilor going to have a direct conversation with the voters in terms of why that person is not going to that committee. So that's one thing about the quorum. It will be a challenge, but I think that as a body, we should provide the tools for other councilors that are willing to initiate that conversation about any of those topics that have the venue of having those. Perhaps right now we're not passionate about economic development, perhaps, but there could be a council that eventually on the road, 10 years from now, say, look, I highly appreciate that committee. That's the best committee. But we create that committee, and we left it up there. If this body is not willing to meet, I mean, it's going to have a conversation with the voters that essentially are the ones that are going to take a determination whether or not we are not doing our job. But I mean, it's a tool that we're creating for the council. I'm personally in favor of having those two committees, even though the conversation might be limited at this point. But eventually down the road, 10 years from now, we might have a other group of people that have other type of, have to have other type of conversation, and they don't have to go through this process again.
Councilor Infante.
I believe Counselor Payano's explanation may have answered some of my confusion. So at first I was confused with the two documents. I kind of wish we just had the semi-draft, final draft, the March 11 and not this one that we have, not the second one. But I'm looking at the subcommittees and then looking at the ordinance notes. And so the ordinance voted to not include these two sections, which is why we're not seeing it. And I think your explanation of quorum is probably the same discussion that the ordinance committee had. Right? I'm just trying to like understand what's going on here because I'm a little bit confused with the back and forth. So, Councilor Rodriguez, are you trying to make an amendment or vote on whatever, like all of these committees that the ordinance committee voted to take out, or do you want to just?
They're slightly different than
Okay.
what we have here.
All right, thank you.
So essentially, the three committees I'm talking about, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, is the public safety, which is there, and the second one will be economic development, which you and me sponsor, and the third one will be on education. So that one will talk about more cultural, public safety, and transportation. But the one that I'm talking about only refer to public safety, which I believe transportation should be under public safety, but that's a different conversation. It's only about public safety to be on a standing committee. Right now, we do have a committee, but it's not a standing committee. It's a temporary committee that expire, and you say 1 year or 2 years?
End of this term.
End of this term. So that public safety committee that we're on is not a standing committee. That committee will expire end of this term. So if we make it a standing committee, it will be there forever. It has been there for quite some time, but it's not a standing committee.
Okay, and then just another clarification question, the charter does not get reviewed again for another 10 years?
At this rate, right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, Council President, just a point of information.
Okay.
So
Point of
while
information,
the council does a review every 10 years, at any point, a mayor or a councilor can push for a charter amendment through the home rule petition.
That question is in the affirmative, yes. At any point that a counselor can introduce information to change the charter, we are required to review the charter every 10 years. This is our 2020 charter. Welcome to 2022.
But that point of information, the process to modify the charter, it have to go different process, but the one that we're doing today is it has a through a home rule petition. So if any councilors want to change the charter at some point through a home rule petition, that means that it have to get voted by the city council, send out to the mayor need to sign it, send out to the legislative body, passed by the state rep, by the Senate, and then signed by the governor. Imagine the process.
And I'm gonna get some clarification because I don't believe there's a distinction. I'm looking at the city attorney between this charter review that we're doing now goes to the same process of the council, goes to the mayor, goes to the legislature and signed by the governor. If we were to do something in the year 2025 that dealt with a change in the charter, same process. Us, mayor, legislature, and governor. It's the same whole rule petition process. And I just want to make sure I'm accurate, that I'm not misleading the council. City attorney, am I accurate that regardless of what the year is, to change the charter has the same mechanism? I could be wrong.
I'm going
Go
to
ahead.
answer it, but a little bit differently.
Okay.
You can change the charter at any time, and there's 3 different ways to change the charter. But whenever you change it, you need to follow one of the 3 mechanisms. But it doesn't matter. Our charter only requires that every 10 years, this body look at it. But this body can choose to look at it every year if they wanted to. It's just what is minimally required is every 10 years. But you can look at it at any time. You could look at it 100 times in 1 year if you wanted to. But you'd still have one of the 3 mechanisms by which you would need to change the charter. but it's unlimited on how many times you can review. Yep.
And it's never easy. Counselor Dela Cruz.
Council President. I understand that we already have many committees, but my concern, for example, the Education Department, we provide them so much money, but they never come back to tell us how they spend the money, what did they do, what is working in the city, what is not working. They've been failing to have parents group, and nobody is requesting them to do that. If we see other school system, the parents have to be part of the school of the kids. But through the Lawrence Public, then if we have a standing committee, we can have that discussion with the superintendent. We can have that discussion with the parents. We can have that discussion with the people in the community. Up to this point, I don't think people have a place where they can speak out about their school, superintendent, parents, family, and the city council. Then we just provide everything needs, but we never had a conversation of how is that money being spent, who is benefiting, what is working, what is not working. As a body, I think when I put that idea in the council, that was my point, that we are not working directly with the school system to make the improvement that we need. For example, let's say that we don't want the MCAS. Then we have a group of parents that they can come to the council and discuss that. But at this moment, the parents, they have no voice to speak out their concerns. Then we, as a body that provides for the school department, we have to take them into account as well. But we also have to have an ear for the parents who are sending the kids to school. Then I believe that we don't have time to do a lot of work in the afternoon, but at the same time, what are the needs of the community that we are attending? It's not just fixing the road. It's so much work that needs to be done that I think we had to bring those people to discuss issue with us, not in a very friendly way, but I think I need to hear more from those departments.
Council Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor President. This is more to Councilor Rodriguez. Yes, I think this is a great idea, but however, in the past, like we've been saying, we put a lot of hope on power that we might don't have, meaning that the school, we just have a recent troubles, whatever you call. And even though we would be putting a committee in open to the public, it's not going to be up to us to make any final decision. So I think you are putting a lot of pressure on you, and I'm going to tell you why. I have to give you credit because you being committed to all your committees that you being assigned it, and you make the effort to be present. But adding 3 more, meaning that we're going to be having meeting every single night, and like Councilor Payano was saying, the quorum was going to be the big challenges. So that's going to be one. That is for education. For the public safety, well, you've been there every, 2 years? And most of the time when we put like a speed limit or whatever is being going on, our constituents, they feel like when they put something in front of us, we are going to make the changes. You can have the best intention, but again, that's not going to be the solution. You're not even going to be able to alleviate the problem because it's a lot of education that needs to be happening between, like you and now know that this is what has been happening. So how many PTA meeting we have in the school that we don't see the parents to show up, only if it is a problem. But when it's a problem, they expect that you as a city council, you're gonna have the power to make a decision and make things change from overnight. Economic development. I know that we have something in place, and I know that sometimes we need to have more information just to know what is going on, what the city is doing just to kind of open or advertise in more businesses or whatever. But this is not, I don't think that's going to be the way just to do it. And if you guys, or we decided to make another standard committee, we open to. If works, works. If it doesn't, doesn't. But I think, we have to think twice before we take in responsibility on something that we're not going to have a power. Education, public safety, we can involve whoever we want, and nothing is going to change from the people perspective.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
I just want to make sure everybody who has spoken wants to
I mean, it's a follow-up on her?
go to Council Rodriguez. No, go ahead.
No, and Councilor Vice President, I probably agree with what you said, but I have a different point of view that probably I have different approach. When I was part of the school committee, I ran for office 2013, get elected. The school committee was under receivership already. And I went there, and me and Councilor Payano, we share a lot of good things about the education system. And even though we didn't have power at that point, because we didn't have the power of the vote, we have the commitment of going to the schools and talk to the principals. And that type of conversation went all the way up to Exit Street, because they were wondering what we were doing there, what we were talking about. And guess what? We were talking about STEM education, we were talking about pre-algebra, we were talking about algebra, we were talking about kids and the future and their education, the actual meaning of education with the principals. And we have no power because we didn't have the vote, the voting power, because we were on the receivership. Power means a lot. But at the end of the day, the only way that we can have a conversation about education, about public safety, or about economic development is by having a committee and having items on that committee. I believe 6 months ago, we have a joint committee between the school committee and the city council, a joint meeting. And that was the only way that we were able to have a quorum, not a quorum, but I mean the school department sitting in front of us. And that was because we had that commitment. We couldn't have we didn't take a vote on that committee to end receivership at that point, but at least we have the conversation. Since then, the level of respect that the city council and the school system had, it was different than not having the conversation. My intention is not to have solution of everything. My intention is to have a conversation about things and be able to bring people to the table and be able to work together, what it really means. We have probably no power of making changes to a lot of things, but we have power. If we have the power of getting people together, trust me, people that make that decision and make that determination, they will follow. So I'm willing to split the document in 3, and that way we can have a conversation individually. But at the end of the day, what I would like to have is to see if we can have those committees as a standing committee, having us to take the responsibility, the council, and then probably adapt it and have those conversations. That's all I want. I mean, I'm pretty sure that more than one council want to have that conversation.
what about what happened in the past? Like you say that we have a joint committee and joint meeting, because that's exactly what would happen in the library, that whenever we have an issue or something is going on, that we can open a conversation and they can come in front of us, but we request it by a motion, and we don't necessarily have to have a committee. Like economic development, it can go through the housing committee, and you can open a discussion and send it up to whatever, recommendation, and if it's something. So at least you can make a motion and request the presence like we had it in the past, like every single time we want someone in presence.
So let me just stop you right there. I just want everybody to know, we have a motion. It has not been seconded. If it has been seconded. So it hasn't been seconded, so now it's been seconded, so there you go.
Let me just quickly respond to Councilor Reyes.
Was there a question? Was there a question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, if you suggested that we amend the charter and add the economic development together with housing, perhaps, like you said, housing and economic development, we can do that. That's not a problem. That's why it's going to be one committee. That's not an issue whatsoever. On education and public safety, we can split the motion and take a vote on each individual one. Public safety, we can decide to whether or not we're going to have it as a standing committee, and education, we can either have education added to another committee or have it alone by itself.
Mr. President.
Councilor Payano?
Thank you, Council President. So I think, one thing to keep in mind, that when we were discussing we were also discussing smaller committees. So it wasn't a committee of 4, it would be a committee of 3. So I feel like folks should keep that in mind. That changes things when thinking about adding all these committees to the council. I will reiterate that having served in, so I was chair of the Charter Committee, Public Safety, Housing, Budget, Committee of the Whole. Throughout that time, I know that it was difficult sometimes obtaining the quorum needed to make the decisions that you needed within the council. So I think that folks should keep that in mind when they think through these committees. And I would also state that when it comes to education, I think anything dealing with the budget, if anyone has a concern about the budget of LPS, like, that is a legitimate concern, should be brought up to the city council, could be taken at the budget committee. If there's a concern around the public safety issues going on at the schools, that can just go to public safety. If there are concerned outside of it, what we've been doing so far is that we've been dealing directly with the, folks have been dealing directly with the city council when it comes to that. We already have 2 different bodies that are supposed to be focusing on education in this city, the school committee and the LEE board. Now, I can state, Councilor Rodriguez, that there were a lot of things when we were school committee members that we were doing that perhaps we wish that was being done at the moment, but those bodies do exist. And there is 2 bodies that are supposed to be discussing the general welfare of our students. I just don't see us in the city council talking about specific policies within the school department. I don't think that's our role. I think our role is these big picture, things dealing with the budget, public safety, and then the trajectory of the school department. So that's my take on it. So, but I would again say that we should be very careful when creating multiple committees, because I would hate to see essentially action not happen. And I would also say that it is important, I think one of the things that happened, while there's a room for conversations to be had, I think most people are looking for action. And I think for most of our committees, actions can actually occur, right? So if there's something in budget, there's like literally something that we can do when a motion is presented to us. With a sort of general committee, that would be very difficult. And I would also state that the last time that the city council and school committee met, what I heard that folks felt very disappointed because they didn't really understand, the end purpose, just the fact that conversation was had around receivership, that neither the council nor the school committee had the power to end receivership just as a whole. So I think we just have to be, especially in education, we have to be very careful, and it should be very well thought out what our approach should be.
No, and I'm going to,
Let's do this. We're gonna need to make a movement at some point. I think we got the argument. You wanna take the role in, and then you also discussed about separating things, so let's see where you're going with it.
no, I just want to point out information very quick on Councilor Payano. When I state the motion, I stated very clear that the Committee on Education will not interfere with the school committee, which means that anything that deal with the receivership is, the school committee is on the receivership right now. Those type of conversation need to be stated very clear. That was part of my motion essentially, is never gonna interfere with the school committee. We don't want to have a school committee under the city council. That's not the intention at all. Having a conversation on education, it could be different than what the school committee is discussing. They have their own roles. Essentially, when the school committee go back to normal, right? And then they're still going to have the power of that the charter give to them. So it's never to interfere with the school committee. When it comes to splitting the document, I would like to make an amendment to the motion to,
Would you like to withdraw your motion and then just introduce each new one?
I would like to,
Withdraw and then introduce a new one?
well, I'm gonna have to do it on one by one then.
Is that what you want to do?
I'll split the three. And
Okay.
let me just say it very quick.
Okay.
So I split the motion into three. The first one will be to change the standing committee of the housing to be read housing and economic development. That's a standing committee that already exists. And the second one will be, perhaps the second part of the motion will be to create a standing committee for the safety. So we can take a vote on that, perhaps if it is A, and then if it is 1, and then this is going to be 1B, because the first one was 1A. And the third one will be to create a standing committee on education, which is never going to interfere with the school committee's duties, which is going to be 1C. So in that way, we can take the vote on each one.
So there's a challenge here. So we didn't withdraw anything. We just split it up into three. You're requesting a vote, A, B, and C. A is one where you're merging, housing and economic development. 2 is public safety. 3 is education. So that's what you're doing. But we're still having the underlying amendment of the underlying motion, which is the 3-pack. So I guess I understand. So if are you going to withdraw that?
The first one was amended. The original was amended to A, B, and C.
Are you clear? I'm not sure that I am.
I have it. So the initial motion.
Just so I'm clear, when we're done with these 3 votes, have we disposed of this item completely, or do we still have the underlying motion that's still there?
That's going to be it. 1 vote, 3 votes, that's it.
So it's 3 separate motions.
It's 3 separate motions. Even though he didn't withdraw anything, he's got 3 separate ones.
It would be good if.
It would be really helpful if you just withdrew the first one.
Okay, I will draw the first one.
First motion is withdrawn. Now we're going to start with the first motion. The first motion is to combine housing and economic development into one. That's the motion.
Second.
It's been made and it has been seconded by Councilor Payano. Discussion on this simple motion? No discussion. I'm not seeing any. I'm now going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Infante,
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Counselor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Counselor Levy.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes, the amendment is included in the underlying motion. The second amendment, I'm going to say it again, the second amendment is the education, which one is it?
The public safety.
Is adding a,
It's on a standing committee.
is adding a public safety committee as a standing committee.
A second with discussion.
Motion's been made and it's seconded by Counselor Payano. Discussion, Counselor Payano.
So I think we didn't talk about it for the last amendment, but I think, you know, usually with these standing committees, there's language stating the scope of the standing committees. I think it'd be important to, for the last amendment, to make sure that whatever language around economic development is sent to the city attorney. For the public safety, what is, it'd be great to write down what the scope is for that committee.
The scope, I will guess the scope, and then we can extend it, I guess. Anything that is related, and a similar scope that we have in the current committee, which deal with the public safety of the city in general. The discussion.
So essentially, so the current scope of the public safety non-standing committee.
And that's correct.
Council President, when you created the committee, I'm assuming that with the creation of the committee, he had to say what the scope was of the committee. I don't recall what it was, but I'm sure he has it somewhere written down that he could send to the city attorney.
Yes, sir. It's already in the packet, so it's not great, so it's already in there, so yeah. So just, what I did was I put 2 or 3 sentences together as to what the mission of it is, and that can be sent to the city attorney, it's just part of the package. So,
And then we can definitely review it.
so there's a motion that's been made, it's been seconded. Any further discussion on this? So I guess my question would be, is this similar to the economic development? Is there an opportunity here to maybe put this into an existing committee, therefore understanding some of the concerns and other members have mentioned, so that it can be kind of dealing with the quorum issues?
Through you, Mr. President. On this one, I don't think we have because I mean, if we send it out to ordinance, that's crazy. and then personnel is nothing related to it. And then we have budget and finance, which is dealing with money and already busy. I think that if we just keep it by itself, like we already have it, and we have the members already, I think it will make sense to just keep it by itself. And that committee's been there for years. So it's like a standard committee perhaps, but it's not.
So another question. If this has been going on for years, and we've been having a public safety committee for years, well, what is different between now creating a standing committee as opposed to having the ad hoc committee that we've had for years and that we're going to have for the next 2 years? What's the advantage of that? Seeing that, being in the council presidency, I can tell you that if members wish in the next term or whatever, if there's a council president that hears from the membership that they want a public safety committee ad hoc, that council president's going to make a public safety committee ad hoc committee, because that's what's going to happen, because he's going to hear it. So I'm trying to figure out what's the advantage of the standing committee versus the ad hoc without the pressure of the quorum.
Through you, Mr. President, I believe that if we standardize things that work, it's because we already tried for years and it worked. We've been dealing with the safety committee, at least myself, for 6.5 years. It worked very well. Let's give the amount of respect that public safety deserve and have it on the charter as one of of our responsibilities. It's different than when it's up to the one person to talk about a specific issue that is so concerning to a lot of people. If we make it if we standardize the committee, it will be a responsibility for all the councilors to respond in terms of safety. It wouldn't be up to the city council president alone by itself to say, yes, we're gonna have a public safety committee. It will be on the charter. I mean, it's just giving them the amount of respect that that committee deserves. But not just for the respect, it's because public deserve to have that committee as an standing committee. It's a great committee. Why not? Just the fact that we have a conversation about safety by itself, it's important to the public.
Any other comments on this? If not, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Clerk?
Counselor Levy?
Did you wish, did I not see your hand, Counselor Levy? Counselor Levy, go ahead. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yes, I'm trying to figure it out. For which one are we voting right now again?
This will be a vote on the creation of a public safety standing committee.
So, just by itself, no joining with the other committee?
Standalone committee.
Counselor Levy?
Yes.
Counselor De La Cruz?
Yes.
Counselor Payano?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario?
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Counselor Infante?
Yes.
President LaPlante?
No. Motion is now part of the underlying. The next one, Council Rodriguez.
The next one will be to add a standing committee on education that do not interfere with the school committee stipulated on the charter.
There's a motion to make a standing committee on education. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly seconded by Councilor Infante. Discussion. Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to say real quick about this education committee, because I remember when these conversations started happening at the community level when I was a school committee member, although I wasn't a school committee member for Lawrence Public Schools. This came up, and I heard, Councilor Payano's concern about having both the school committee and also the state elected board. But this came about because those two boards were not working well together when trying to talk about issues that were happening in our school system. Our community members were asking for more leaders to join in the conversation, and that's how this committee came about to the council. So I don't know if you guys remember that, but wanted to give you that background information because I was personally, as a school committee member, part of these discussions as well with other members of our city.
Any other, Councilor De La Cruz?
Yes, Council President, thank you. I think that we need to give a voice to the community in having a place where they can ask for things. Because so far, the school committee meet. At one point, the school committee didn't have a power. We hope that they can get it back. The LEA is working for the other side, which is the Department of Education. And we had to care about the community because a lot of parents, for example, they don't have time to go to meetings because they have 2 jobs. But why they don't do a meeting on Saturday for them? When kids go to charter school, they have meetings all the time. at 7 o'clock in the morning, at 7 o'clock at night. Our Lawrence Public School family, they cannot go to meetings on Saturdays or Sundays. At one point, we did have meetings Saturdays and Sundays where our parents were able to attend. Then we need to give back that kind of respect to the parents who are not communicating in a better way with the schools and the families. Then that's why Standing Community will help the conversation. What's working, what can be better, what is the responsibility of the parents? Because sometimes having 2 jobs is not an excuse. Having 2 jobs is that I need the money to support my family. Then I think we're giving an opportunity to the school to have a nice conversation at one point with the parents.
Thank you, Councilor Reyes.
Mr. President, I think the Education Committee is really important to us because we need to open the space for our family to bring the conversation, especially our family have children with special needs. Sometimes they have different questions and they looking for different information about what program we have in our city, and sometimes we don't have the response to them. I think it's really important to have the committee to know a little bit more what program we have to offer to our family in our community.
Council President, Councilor Payano.
So I understand, right? I think if there's been one council that's been adamant and that advocates for our youth, I'm definitely one of those counselors. I think what we're talking about is essentially that there's been, because of receivership and the way things have been handled in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a vacuum that we're trying to fill. And the question is the answer, should the city council be pushing for the end of receivership? Should the leaders in Lawrence be pushing for the end of receivership so that we can merge, instead of there being 2 education committees, there's 1 education committee? Or should we be adding another layer of bureaucracy, right? But let's just say that we decide to add this other layer of bureaucracy. My next question is, what power does the school committee have, does the city council have to push for whatever discussion that we need? That's a very important part, because if you fill the room with people, there are certain people that come in, and we want to talk about a certain item, let's say parent involvement. I will tell you, whether there was receivership or no receivership, the city council has 0 when it comes to parent involvement. Where we do have certain control is what we approve or disapprove when it comes to the budget. So if we have a question around parent involvement, this is the way I would handle it. I would say, well, the city council approved X amount of money to hire individuals that be doing parent involvement. So let's take this item and bring it to the budget. Pretty much almost every item regarding education can be handled already by the current committees that exist. My fear is by creating this other bureaucratic group, what you're going to be adding is politics into a mist that isn't necessarily needed. That's my personal view on this matter. I think we have, for the past 4 years, we have brought certain items to the floor of the council. If it wasn't for COVID, we would have had, I think the last time we had somebody, the chair of the LAE board here, was pre-COVID, and there was a commitment for that chair to come in front of us and in front of the committee of the whole or the full council every 6 months to discuss. So I think that it's there, and we'd be creating. I don't know. I just don't. I don't see how this would work.
Any other members? Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Payano, I do want to comment on what you just said in regards to that we would be adding politics. If you think about that aspect of things, I believe mostly every person that campaigns talks about education. So politics has already been added to that. It is the voice of the community that they have been asking for the city councilors to get more involved because things are not getting done. And what we have the power to do, we may not be able to vote on specific matters other than the budget, but what we do have the power in is our voice in speaking and bringing and elevating our community's concerns to the state, to whomever is in charge of making those decisions, because that's not happening now. We have been, and when I say we, I'm talking as us, as a community, as a city. We have been leaning on these two bodies, but something is not working here. So if we're really going to talk about education and really going to say that education is important, then perhaps, you know what, it might not be a standing committee. Maybe, I don't know, the city council hosts like open discussions like once a month or something on education that then we can bring up and discuss with our other colleagues. We can figure it out, but this is not the first time that people are asking for more leadership to get involved at the local level. And if we want our schools back, then we need to do something.
Council President?
Yes, and and then Councilor De La Cruz.
Yeah,
and I
just
think-
a
and then we're
response.
gonna have a vote, Councilor.
Yeah,
Pam.
Councilor Infante, I would agree with everything you said, right? So I think that there's a lot more that can be done that council should be doing. I know that myself, there's a lot that I am doing. There's regular meetings that I have with folks from the state. There's regular meetings that I have with local individuals. And there's a lot of advocacy that I do to the mayor's office to ensure that the mayor's office understands the importance on us moving on this item. There is a motion that we have yet to discuss in the full council where the mayor is asking us for, I think we're going to discuss it again at the next meeting, where the mayor is discussing for us to approve a certain amount of money that he is going to be hiring a group that is going to essentially be analyzing the issue, creating convenings within the public to make a decision and make a determination of the future of the public schools. I think those types of meetings where they are run in a non-Robert Rules of Order will lead more to ensure that the community is actually connected to what it is that we're to what it is that they want to do. Whereas if we're in a committee, we cannot engage in this back and forth with community members. It's essentially us talking about certain items, and I think, education is very dear to me, and I hate to see I hate to see bodies, and I'm talking in general, I hate to see bodies that essentially all you hear is talk and there is no action. I think with the current, I think if it's dealing with a budget, there is power that we can have. If it deals with public safety, there's a certain amount of power that we can have. But some of the other intricacies, sorry, bilingual, there's certain pieces that are important for us to have that would be difficult for us to have it during the committee. All those other initiatives, I will partner with those. Like, I think all those initiatives are great. I don't think it's through this bureaucratic process that they can be had.
Council President, thank you. I go to the Festival of Bread and Roses every year, and it's so sad that the kids that attend that festival, they don't live in Lawrence. There is no connection of the history of Lawrence with the school department. I remember when I moved to this city, they used to celebrate. Kids were doing the St. Patrick Parade. They're not doing that anymore. They don't participate in Semana Hispana at all. Our culture is being thrown on the floor because our kids are not connected to any of those events. Any of those events. I understand, but what are the legacy that we live in as educators to our community? Bread and Roses brings a lot of different artists from all over the United States. And you know what? No kids are from Lawrence. Then what are we going to do? We need to have that kind of conversation with the school department. We want our kids to be dancing on those kind of events or to be participating. That's part of our culture. They need to be more engaged with the community. Saturdays and Sundays, you don't see no teachers in this city. They don't have to come because they have a union. They don't have to come at all. But if we have a program and we have a participation of the kids in the different schools, I remember your father celebrating the 27th of today, February 27th. He used to do a Dominican celebration on the 27th. That was your father. And I was helping out. And those were the kids engaged in the community, our children. It's not happening anymore. It's not happening. Our kids are not, they don't know who Camela Teoli was because we are not connecting education and the culture and the history, the beautiful history of the city of Lawrence.
Are there? You're ready for a vote? I'm ready for a vote as well. I just have one quick question. If this thing passes, I'm looking at our current charter 5.4, duties and powers of the school committee, subsection C. And the responsibility of the school committee is to make all reasonable rules and regulations for the management of the public schools of the city and for conducting business of the school committee as may be necessary or desirable. If there's something that comes before the city council and placed on the agenda that deals with reasonable rules and regulations for the management of the public schools, is the council president supposed to say, I'm sorry, that oversteps the boundaries of the schools versus or is the council president letting that in, even though it's going against the current charter?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, essentially part of the original motion was to have that committee that do not interfere with the current the school committee. At that point, if you're asking a question as of how you should, what you should do at that point, I think that the member of that committee should be clear that the responsibility of the school committee should never be interfere with that specific committee of the city council, and that should be out of order, perhaps, because it's in order to the school committee to deal with this, with that specific issue. No policies to be created on that committee, and perhaps no other things that interfere with the school committee.
That needs to be clear because one of the speakers did mention MCAS, for example, and that certainly is a policy procedure that's frankly by the state. And so I just want either this council president or next council presidents, plural, to know where the jurisdiction of the line is when they get something that comes before the agenda and they see things that may be crossing over the line. And some councils are going to say, I put this on the agenda. You can't take that off. I put that on there, and there needs to be, we need to know what the rules are. It's fair for the council president to help all of us navigate these waters, but we just need to know what the rules are. So if something comes up that is within the realm of the school committee, for hypothetically, or the LAE, is the council president going to say, I'm sorry, that oversteps our authority as a city council? So that's going to be the question. All right, so enough debate. Questions have been answered. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
No.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice President Estela Reyes.
No.
Counselor Payano.
No.
Counselor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Counselor Levy.
No.
President LaPlante.
No. What's the vote, clerk?
It is 4 yes and 5 no.
That amendment is not part of the underlying motion. Are there any other amendments that wish to be presented this evening?
Yes, I have one more.
Councilor Rodriguez. Councilor Rodriguez, we'll go through Councilor Rodriguez's amendments and then I'll order Councilor Levy, Councilor De La Cruz's. Councilor Rodriguez.
Councilors, this is not perhaps a motion that I'm gonna make to amend anything on this section. But I would like the city council to have an open-minded and be able to keep this discussion open when it comes to section 5 of the city charter, which is the school committee. Right now, we are in the process of approving $150,000 that is gonna be in regarding to 3 different projects that the city, that the mayors of the city of Lawrence will take on. One of those projects will be in education. And the school committee, perhaps an evaluation of the school committee, perhaps, I don't know. It's gonna be a project that we don't know the scope of work, but it's in relation to the school committee and this charter. I would like to send correspondence to the mayor to be able to give us a little bit more details as of what that project is going to be, and perhaps if an amendment to section 5 of the city charter will be needed to be modified, perhaps, or adding or anything. So it's a motion to send correspondence to the mayor in regard to section 5 of the city charter regarding to the school committee and the project that he gonna be taking on when it comes to education.
A resolution like this, a correspondence like this would not be in order. A correspondence like this, if they wanted to put it on the city council agenda as a standalone item, would be in order, of course. But to use this charter amendment situation to do that would not be in order. Certainly, the member can make a motion to deal with section 5 and make some sort of change if a change is what they're looking to do, and that could be in order.
Essentially, Mr. President, the intention is to have a conversation in regard to section 5 to change it if it's needed. What I would like to do first is to open the conversation with the mayor to figure it out whether or not this is needed. The reason that I'm doing this is because I wouldn't like this conversation to be over and not have an opportunity to talk about this specific section. When we were at the charter review committee, I was trying to have this conversation. I was not able to because I didn't get a second by you on that day. So I'm trying to push the issue of having a conversation about the school committee, and it will be now or perhaps in 10 years. School committee need to be discussed, and the mayor would like to. So let's allow the conversation to go through because it's in order, perhaps.
This is one of those things, a couple of things. First of all, if we knew this was going to happen this evening, if you knew you were going to be offering, if any member was going to be offering a motion, and it's been harboring this for some time, to the benefit of his colleagues, we should have had an opportunity to review that prior to, or at least have that similar to what the city attorney, one of our colleagues, and the city clerk has done. All that is provides us a sense of understanding, because this is a more complex situation, because we aren't even offering an amendment. We're looking to get information to maybe do something, and it just seems rather ephemeral.
Point of information?
There's a point of parliamentary inquiry.
Point of information. So maybe it's still. I would like the opportunity to ask one before. Thank you. Councilor Lee, as already stated, it might make your question moot. If I read what the mayor it's to have, I forget if it's Harvard, it's some school, is going to be doing, Harvard is going to be doing research into the education system in Lawrence, bringing people together, doing convenings. That will take months, and it is my understanding that if potentially, maybe, after all these convenings, there is a push to change the charter or change our ordinances and change certain things. I don't think the mayor, until that occurs, I don't think the mayor will have any thoughts on changing this. And we're talking about months down the road. But the good thing is that conversation, if it passes and the council does give that money, then we'll be able to have that conversation in the future.
Are there any other amendments, Counselor, that you wish to offer? It was not in order because there's nothing, there really isn't anything there. And I kind of get where you're going with it, and not that I want to stonewall that, but there's a way to do it. And I don't think just tonight's that kind of evening to do it. Please put it on the agenda. We can have an agenda item that deals strictly with that issue. Anything else?
Yes,
What?
we'd like to.
Okay, yes, sir.
But I'll give the chance to go to the other colors before I get there.
Counselor, I'm just gonna,
So there was never a vote to accept this.
we haven't done that yet. We're still in amendments. Yep. Go ahead, Counselor.
No, I would like to pass the floor to other councilors.
Oh, okay. Counselor Dela Cruz, you wish to speak? You wish to offer an amendment?
Section 2? Oh, page 2. Of the, I don't know at this point.
That's the January memo that she's looking at.
Yeah. Yes. Section 2, page 2. Section C, it says, election and term of office of all district councilors should be 2 years. And councilor at large should be 4 years.
That didn't pass, that didn't go through.
It didn't go through?
No, you guys didn't put that in there. But if
Okay,
but if
yeah.
I definitely, as the person that proposed that, or one of the people that proposed that, myself and Councilor Rodriguez, you want to move forward, I definitely wouldn't disagree.
Okay, I'm starting to lose a little bit of control here, so is there a motion? Is there an amendment? Yes or no? Nope. Not hearing an amendment, I'm going back to Councilor Rodriguez, unless there's another amendment. Councilor Rodriguez?
Does any other?
Apparently not, you've got it.
All right, I would like to make an amendment on section 5.18.
So looking at the chart, yes, 5.18, back to school.
I'd like to offer an amendment to be a 9-member, a school committee member. A school committee of 9 members, 6 per district, 2 at large, and the mayor.
So that's 5.1A, the opposition, correct? And just so we're clear on it one more time, it is going to be 9 members, because currently it's currently what, 6? 7 right now, so it's going to be 9. 6, just like us, 6 districts,
2 at large, and the chair, which is the mayor.
So there is a motion, and then is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Reyes, thank you. Motion on discussion.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Rodriguez, seeing that there's going to be if the council puts the money for it, that there's going to be convenings, discussions on how or if certain things around public schools, school committee, like everything should change. Does it make sense for us to make those changes before those discussions are even had? Shouldn't we wait for this study to be done?
Of course.
Before we, go into changing this part of the governance structure?
Yes, by all means, that's what I would like to see, essentially. That conversation need to happen. And if that's part of the recommendation, at least the mayor can hold into this specific item, section 5, and wait for that study to happen. At the end of the day, I'm trying to have a conversation about the school committee, and I think that the mayor can hold on it. I would like him to hold on that, but at least he have that on his hand, section 5, to be changed. How are we gonna change it? So right now, we're taking a vote to do minor changes. Eventually down the road, when he send it back after the study, we will make more changes, but we have it open. We have the discussion going. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to, this simple change that I'm making is something that is conceptual of what really means to these sections. I mean, it's a lot more. And the fact that I'm gonna say yes to the allocation of that money to do 3 studies, it will be because I wanna see more, of course. But if we close the chapter and not allowing the mayor to have this chapter 5 on his desk, that means that we're gonna have to do a whole new process. I'm trying hard to make sure that he have that there. Eventually down the road, we will change it based on the results that we get from that study. I wanna see, I'm anxious to see it, of course. I wanna be part of that, if I can. But if he doesn't have that on his desk, at that point, a whole new process needs to happen. We're just talking about the charter review. We've been talking for 2 years, 2.5 years. I don't want the mayor to go through that if we have the opportunity to just have that. There's a specific item on his desk, wait for the study, and then include all those changes into this item that we already have.
Through you, Council President.
Council Payano.
Thank you. So, Councilor Rodriguez, I understand what you're trying to say, and I think that you and I, during the Charter Committee, we had many conversations on making certain changes around that. I think that regardless of what happens, once this review is done, the process is gonna start from scratch, in the sense that we're gonna have to engage in conversations around whatever it is that the proposal is to make, changes with which in the charter, our ordinances, whatever it might be. Those conversations are gonna start from zero again. What we have here is an item that we've been discussing since 2020. I don't think that it makes sense for us to delay that item for another 9 months, right, for this particular piece. I think we can engage in that piece once this review, these convenings occur, if they occur, and we see a report outlining the different things that should be done. I think at that point, I probably would see changes, whether it's coming from us or from the administration. There probably would be changes in our ordinances and in our charter to reflect that report, and it would start would start again.
And through you, Mr. President, I would like to ask the city attorney a question. Any of the changes that we have in front of us, when are they going to take effect? If they pass by, let's say, within the next 9 months, when are those changes are going to take effect? It's not right away. I know that it's going to take effect, like probably later.
No, it's only because I can't remember all of them. Some of these charter changes, the legislature may ask that they be put to a vote at the next municipal election. Off the top of my head, because I'm sorry, now I'm really confused on what was in the January 11th and what was in the March. I'm not sure if in the March one, it has most of them that will. What?
So this is this is nothing.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is we're sending this up as one whole package, right? So if there's one provision in there that the legislature determines needs to go out to the voters, the whole charter revision will get put to voters. So that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know if with it, so changing, I mean, I know I don't know what's going, but changing the composition of the school committee from 7 to 9, because you would now have 2 at large because it involves elections, that will go to the voters, more than likely. No, I do. I just can't look at it in 7 pages really fast to tell you whether or not this, that's all I'm trying to say. But I do know that if you're going to change the composition because elections are going to be in play, that will more than likely go out to the voters. So say we get the mayor's signature tomorrow on this, and then it goes to the legislature. It'll have to go between the Senate and the House, and then even if it goes to the governor, how it will come out of there will be that this will only be adopted if it's accepted by a majority of the municipal voters at the next municipal election, which will be in 2023 to take effect in 2024, right?
Our next municipal election is next November
Of 2023.
of 23, correct?
Right,
Odd
right.
years, yep. Okay. I have Counselor Levy where who I think wants to ask a question, but before I go there, and I'm getting you ready to go there, Counselor Levy. That was a game changer comment, actually, City Attorney, what you just said there, because I was under the impression, falsely, apparently, that we could send a whole package of information over to the city, to the legislature, and they would say, yeah, that's non-controversial, yeah. This one, oh no, that's a big one, that's got to go back to the voters. They would go ahead and start like sifting through it. But if I heard you correctly, you said if there's just one thing that's big enough, the whole thing comes back. Is that, did I hear you correctly?
From what I understand, they don't do the sifting for us. We can send 2 petitions, we can send 10 petitions, but I'm not quite sure if they do the sifting for us.
Okay, well, that's kind of a huge deal, because if we're throwing stuff out there thinking, oh, they'll figure it out, all this work that we're doing, it just takes potentially one big change, and we have just spent 2 years working on something that's going to come back to us, and they're going to say, you need to make a correction on this. Holy cow, is that a lot? I mean, that's just amazing. So
Well, they wouldn't send it back to corrections. I mean, from what I have seen, what happens with home rule petitions is when we submit it to them, there's certain language that say, we want you to adopt it as is and you are not allowed to change a word, or we want you to adopt it but only make changes as to form, or we turn it over to you and you can make whatever changes you want and we don't have a say in it. So it depends on how you phrase the petition that you're making to the legislature.
So that's a great question, and I do see Councilor Levy, and I promise, please, I'm not going to forget her. I'm going to see her, I'm going to have her speak. I'm going to throw out a hypothetical here that I haven't heard anybody say. Let's say we want to have 26 city councilors and 13 school committee members, like a big change, right? And I think of whatever other big change you have, plus you have all the other things that we're going to be dealing with. If that one big change, they say that we're not going to just allow you to do it by fiat, by this. You need to bring that before the voters. That whole thing comes back, and we're going to talk about it again, committees, whatever, and then we're going to send it back. There could be this ping pong action going on?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You then put it on the next municipal ballot.
That's it?
It does not come back here. You just put it on the next municipal ballot, and 50% of the voters need to vote yay, otherwise it all fails.
Everything goes on, even changing the non-controversial thing, like changing the swearing-in ceremony from 7 o'clock to noontime, even that goes on, everything?
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I am not so sure that they do the sifting for you. I'm not sure that they will bifurcate it. That might be a question that we could pose to Senate Council. I'm not sure if they will answer because they are not our attorneys. They are the attorney. There's nothing before them. But maybe we could ask someone from the state delegation to inquire about that, because they work for the state senators and the state representatives and not us.
That makes a lot of
I-
sense.
I am just unclear. I just know that the most recent petition that we gave to the legislature, I believe it was in regards to not having a special election. The language that we put, and I don't know if you ever compared, but the language that was voted on by the city council was not at all the language that was officially adopted by, and signed into law by the governor. It was dramatically different.
Because they get to control, because it's their bill. We just give them recommendations of what we want to see, but it's their legislation, correct?
Only if we allow them to. We can say, we only want this amendment only if it's worded this way. And they can look at it and they say, nope, we would never word it that way. They reject it and it'll never pass.
All right.
So I think it's a different conversation than what we're having, but
Yeah, but still important.
yeah.
Let me go to Councilor Levy. Councilor Levy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to say, that I agree with Council Payano on the regard that we should wait for the mayor to send us the story and that he can come in to speak to us on this regard. But also, I have a question. It was very hard. It was very hard. Before, all members of the school committee were at large. And we had a lot of problem getting, people to come and participate on the committee anyway. And then it was decided in 2001, to make, the committee instead a large, just by district, like in the way that it is. Right now, we also are having problems just to get people to participate on the committee. So if we add 2 more, it's going to be more harder also for them or to have people participating on the school committee. That's my concern.
Okay, so we have a motion. It has been. And now I am going, and this is dealing with the expansion of the school committee to 9, 6 districts, 2 at large, so an expansion. And of course, the mayor. So I'm now, clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Levy,
No.
Counselor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Counselor Payano,
No.
Vice President Estela Reyes.
No.
Counselor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario,
No.
Counselor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Infante,
Yes.
President LaPlante.
No. That amendment was not adopted. Any other motions, any other amendments? Hearing none, what I would like to do now is I would like to I'm going to look for, I'm going to need some help on this. I'm going to look for a motion to table this matter with the instructions that this go to the mayor's office for review and for the city attorney for the review of the extra stuff that we just adopted. So there's a motion to table with the instruction of sending the documents to the city attorney and the mayor. Is there a motion?
Move.
Motion's been
Second.
made, and it's been seconded by Councilor Infante? Thank you. Motion been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. President, we're tabling everything?
We're tabling, so right now, we know what the items are that are going to be added to the March 11th package. The city attorney is going to review the new language of stuff that we talked about this evening. That's not part of that. That's going to be going in a package to the mayor's office to get his feedback. It'll then come back down to at some time, I don't know when, back to the full council. When we get that, we will then take it off the table. We'll see what the mayor has to say, and we'll have a final, hopefully, knock on wood, a final discussion and final vote then.
Okay. Counselor Infante? Yes. Counselor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario? Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Counselor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Counselor Levy.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion to table has been, now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Counselor Payano, seconded by Counselor Reyes. Roll call.
Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor De La Cruz.
Yes.
Counselor Payano.
Yes.
Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Infante.
Yes.
President LaPlante.
Yes, we are adjourned. We will see you in less than 24 hours. Thank you.